Hey guys, welcome to the very first video ever on this channel. I'm Taylor and this is Taylor on TV. Here on this channel, I'm going to be talking about all things movies, all things TV, anything movie content TV related. It's going to be here on this channel. So if you like movies, if you like reviews, movie commentary, TV commentary, go ahead and click subscribe now because this is what this channel is going to be about. If I look familiar, it's because I do have another YouTube channel. It is called At All Things Taylor. I don't have a lot of subscribers, but some of my videos have quite a bit of views. So maybe you've seen me. Maybe you want to subscribe to the other channel. I do vlogs, lifestyle content, stuff like that. So if you like that kind of content, go over there. If you like movies, stay put. The reason I'm making a completely separate channel is because I love movies. If you can't tell, I love movies, I love TV, and I always have. It's been a passion of mine since I was a little kid. Every time we go see movies, I just want to talk about them. I want to analyze them. I want to review, like, what did you think? I spend hours thinking about TV shows, and at first I'm like, okay, I guess I'm weird, but the internet is a beautiful place because you learn that there's people who are just like you. So I'm making this channel in hopes of finding more movie lovers to talk with. I want to build a community. Maybe we could build a little movie loving family where we talk and review movies. This video should be posted on April Fool's Day. And what better video to post than an April Fool's related video on April Fool's Day? The first movie I'm going to be talking about is essentially a prank gone wrong style movie. I don't know about you guys, but like on TikTok and YouTube, even some of these prank shows, some of these pranks go a little too far. And like, everybody's not playing with y'all. I think I saw a prank the other day. This girl pushed another girl in the street and kind of antagonized her and wanted her to fight. And when the girl started to fight back, she yelled, "It's a prank, it's a prank." So you put your hands on me and you want to yell, "It's a prank"? That's not a prank. Or like cheating pranks, tricking my girlfriend into thinking I'm cheating on her, and you're flat out kissing another girl in front of her, and when she gets upset, it's a prank. So, in the spirit of pranks that aren't funny or pranks that go a little too far, we're going to be talking about 2001's Joyride. What's Joyride about? I'm glad you asked. It's summer break and the college freshman Lewis Thomas, played by Paul Walker, has decided to embark on a cross-country road trip to pick up the girl of his dreams, Venna. But Lewis's romantic hopes hit a detour when he stops on the way to rescue his older brother Fuller, who makes him play a practical joke on a lonely trucker over the CB radio. Now that trucker is an unseen and terrifying force known only by his CB handle, Rusty Nail, and he wants the last laugh and revenge. Now, there will be spoilers ahead, so if you want to see this movie spoiler free, it is currently streaming on Tubi, and that's free $99, and I think it's also on Amazon Prime if you have that membership. I will say spoilers ahead and trigger warnings. It is rated R for violence, language, and I think maybe some brief nudity. It does have some depictions of violence and gore. So without further ado, let's talk about 2001's Joyride. So, the movie begins with our main character, Lewis Thomas, played by Paul Walker. RIP to a real one. I think Paul Walker was most of our first celebrity crushes. And if you say no, then you're a liar. Anyways, the movie begins with Lewis Thomas. He is talking to a girl on the phone. Her name is Venna, and I know her from this movie called Glass House. I don't think I've seen her in much else, but Lewis Thomas is talking to his crush, Venna, over the phone. Lewis and Venna are in separate locations. I think she's in Colorado and he's not in Colorado. And she is talking to him about her ex-boyfriend, or how she broke up with the guy because he was kind of pushy, rude, mean, all the red flags. So she breaks up with the guy and she says that she wishes she could have a little downtime or a little breather before she went back home from college break. And she's just basically saying, gosh, I really wish that I could have some downtime. I wish somebody had a car. I wish somebody could, drive me home. That's literally how she says it. I'm not even exaggerating.
Wish I had a car, then I could just get there gradually. You had a car, you could stop by Colorado and pick me up.
So Paul Walker's character, I'm just going to call him Paul Walker because that's what I want to call him. That's what his mama named him, and that's what I'm going to call him. So Paul Walker is listening to her on the phone, and essentially he's in the friend zone. You could tell, and I think they're setting it up because he's just really eager to talk to her about her breakup. He pulls out a plane ticket and they zoom in on these big words that say, ticket is refundable. So he's like, wait, I have a car and I could drive you home. And she's like, since when do you have a car? He was like, no, trust me. As he refunds his plane ticket, he gets a car and now he's on his way to pick up Bay. So he's on the freeway driving, and a lot of these driving scenes in this movie are very Fast and the Furious to me. Maybe it's just because Paul Walker is the Fast and the Furious franchise. He's the whole franchise, in my opinion. I don't care how much you shove Vin Diesel down my throat. I don't want Vin Diesel. A lot of these scenes are essentially Fast and the Furious auditions, in my opinion. So he's driving down the freeway and he's on his way to pick up Venna, but he gets a phone call. He finds out that his brother is getting out of jail soon. So Paul Walker then picks up his brother and they're on their way. Somewhere along the way, his brother Fuller finds a CB radio. And at first, it's innocent. You know, they're just listening to truckers. And I think there's some truckers who kind of give a heads up, like there's no police on the freeway for like the next some odd miles. Go ahead and speed. You know, they're hearing all the trucker talk on this radio. As they continue their journey, Fuller decides to play a prank on one of the truckers. He convinces Paul Walker to put on a woman's voice and play the role of a woman named Candy Cane.
Black Sheep, this is Candy Cane. I've been looking for you all day.
Hey there, Candy Cane. This is Black Sheep. I'm right on schedule.
The two of them go back and forth, passing back the radio walkie. You know, Paul Walker is playing Candy Cane and Fuller is playing another truck driver. So Fuller is essentially saying, hey, baby, you know, I can't wait to see you tonight. And then passing the walkie back to Paul Walker, and Paul Walker is pretending to be a lady named Candy Cane. And she's saying, oh, yes, baby, I can't wait to see you tonight. You know, I miss you, stuff like that. The whole point of the back and forth is to bait a truck driver who's listening. And sure enough, after they're done with their fake conversation back and forth over the radio, a truck driver named Rusty Nail calls in and says, hey, Candy Cane.
Candy Cane, come on.
I knew it. These guys are so fucking horny. All right.
So they're going back and forth over the radio, and Paul Walker is saying things like, what would you do to me if I was there? You know, and then what? Like, you know, if I was there, what would we be doing right now? Like stuff like that. And he's really just like making fun of the guy. It's actually pretty awful. And so the guy is, you could hear he's really flustered, and he's not that type of guy. I even think he says, I ain't never done nothing like this before. Like I ain't never talked to. And eventually they lose signal and they just let it go. It's like a little ha-ha moment. So they keep driving down the road and they come to a motel. And at this motel, we kind of get a glimpse of how different the brothers are. Fuller decides to park in a handicapped parking spot at the motel. And Paul Walker says, hey, we shouldn't be parking in handicap because we're not handicapped. There's so many other parking spots that we could choose from. Why are we parking in the handicapped parking spot? Fuller, the brother, says, exactly, there's so many other parking spots, so it really don't matter. And it is in the dead of night, so I kind of agree it doesn't matter. Like, I'm just about to run in here for a minute and check in, and then we're going to leave. And to mention, it was raining. It's raining, too. I'm not the kind of person who parks in handicap, but, I mean, it's midnight. I'm running in for a second, and it's raining. Let it go. So Fuller then gets out of the car. So he goes in where he encounters a motel worker and a customer going back and forth, arguing about noise complaints. And the customer is saying that he has been disturbed several times by housekeeping and noise, and it's not right. Now, the motel worker is a man of color. I don't want to assume that he's Indian, but he's not white. And the customer is a white man, a very racist white man, and he gives the hotel worker a very hard time.
That won't happen again.
Sorry, my ass. Where's your boss? I want the real manager, the white one, the one whose first language is fucking English.
So Fuller is seeing all of this, and he's kind of like, ugh, this is awful, this is racist, this is a terrible situation. He tries to step in and make light of the situation, but the customer then turns on Fuller and gives him a hard time. And he even like body bumps him on the way out the door. So while Fuller is in the hotel dealing with the irate customer and getting the rooms and all that stuff, Paul Walker is in the car, and you hear over the radio, the man is back and he's asking for Candy Cane. He's looking for Miss Candy Cane. Paul Walker is kind of freaked out. He's looking like, ugh, this man is still looking for this girl. I thought it was a little kiki, but it's not a little kiki for him. He really looking for an old girl. So Fuller gets back in the car, and he's very upset that he got body bumped by the customer. And he's like, that dude was an asshole, stuff like that. And Paul Walker's like, we have bigger problems. He's back. Rusty Nail is back, and he wants a lick of the candy cane. So Fuller comes up with a plan, and he says they should continue to prank Rusty Nail. And somehow Paul Walker allows his brother to talk him into it again. Paul Walker is back with the little girl voice, and he's saying, hey, baby, what's up? And essentially, to make a long story short, Paul Walker ends up giving the guy their current location and saying they should meet up tonight. And the guy is kind of nervous, and he's like, well, I've never done this before. So he said he's never done this before, and Paul Walker's like, oh no, don't worry. As long as you're a man and you know you got a heart and a soul, that's all I'm looking for. So Rusty Nail agrees to meet up with Candy Cane, and Paul Walker and Fuller give this man the location to their current motel, only they don't give him their hotel room number. They give him the rude customer's hotel number. So while Fuller was waiting his turn to book his room, he heard which room the rude customer was staying in, and it's room number 17. So they tell Rusty Nail, meet me in room 17 and bring some pink champagne, because you know, I like a little pink champagne. Paul Walker and his brother Fuller go into the hotel room, and they're chilling until midnight because they want to see this guy pull up. So midnight comes around, and they hear a big rig pulling into the parking lot. They cut off all the lights and the TV in the bedroom, and they look out the window, and they can see the silhouette of a man. And he has a bottle of champagne. I'm just kidding. I don't know. You can't see that. So they see a man walking up to the hotel room next door. And so they listen. Rusty Nail knocks on the door, and the rude customer opens the door, and you could hear a little arguing, and then I think you can hear like some gasp, and like it don't sound too good. It sounds so bad that Paul Walker insists on calling the front desk to do a welfare check on the man. So the front desk calls the room next door, and you can hear the phone ringing through the wall, and somebody picks up, but we don't know who. You can't tell who it is. And so the front desk calls the brother's room, and they say, everything is fine. The customer picked up the phone. He's straight. Don't worry about it. They're like, okay, that's weird. They go to bed for the night, but when they wake up in the morning, there are police everywhere. Fuller is the first person to talk to the police, and the police are kind of giving him the third degree. They're asking, like, where was you at last night? I heard you had an argument with him in the hotel lobby. Did you do something? And so Fuller's like kind of connecting the dots, like, oh, wait, so the asshole from last night, there's something that happened to him? What happened to him? What are we talking about? Because he's being questioned, but he's not fully aware of, like, what is going on. Come to find out, the man who was in the hotel lobby acting an ass is now in the middle of the street, face down. At this point, Paul Walker walks up, and he's like, what is going on? Somebody got hurt? And the police officer's like, you know what? We don't believe you. How about we show you how bad it is for real? Now, this is where things get kind of wonky for me, because so the police take Paul Walker and his brother Fuller to the hospital, and they show these two men, the victim, he's in a coma, and the bottom half of his jaw has been like ripped off. So I don't know if I could show it because I don't know what YouTube allows, but all of this gone. All he has is like the tops, and he's laying. It's very graphic. I don't even know how to explain it, but it tripped me out, because what police officer is going to take somebody in there to see that? Like, yeah, let me take you to the hospital to show you. Apparently it worked because Paul Walker started talking. He started snitching. He told the police officers exactly what happened, and now the police are pissed. They're like, what were y'all thinking? And because it was over the radio, Paul Walker and his brother cannot give a lot of information. They really don't know what this guy looks like. They didn't get a good look at him last night. They just know that he goes by Rusty Nail and he drives a truck. And that doesn't help at all. Oddly enough, the police don't hold them. They let them go. And they tell them, we want you out of town by sundown. And I think they even used the words, we're going to treat this like an old Western. Get out of town by sundown. Where do they do that at? Where do they do that at? Because you are the number one lead for this case. Why would I let you go? So the brother Fuller has a very interesting scenario, and I want to know your guys' thoughts on it. He says, if you order a pizza for your neighbor, and your neighbor answers the door with an AK-47 and kills the pizza delivery guy, whose fault is it? Is it your fault for putting the plan in motion, or is it the neighbor's fault for being overly violent? Because at this point, Paul Walker is blaming himself for this man being in the hospital. He's saying, if I hadn't planned this prank, these things wouldn't have happened. And while that is true, is it really their fault? Like, I want to know what you guys think. Comment down below the scenario. If you put this plan in motion and then someone got hurt, is it your fault, or is it their fault for being unhinged and ripping people's jaw off? Like, you didn't know they were going to rip somebody's jaw off. Comment your opinion down below. Let's move on. So the next thing that happens is they get on the road and they're getting out of town as the police officer instructed. And while they're driving, they get another radio call from Rusty Nail. He's looking for the character that Fuller was playing, because remember, they were role playing a man and a woman. So he's looking for the man who was talking to Candy Cane. So Fuller gets on the radio and he says, hello, I don't know where Candy Cane at. I talked to her last night. She said she really didn't mean it. I'm sorry. Rusty Nail's like, no, I think you know exactly where Candy Cane is, and I need to talk to her. So at this point, Paul Walker's like, look, this is getting out of hand. Let's fix this. So he gets on the radio and he puts on Candy Cane's voice, and then he switches to his voice immediately.
Hey there, Rusty Nail, you hear this? Look, that was me, all right? I'm a guy. It was just a joke.
And he says, see, I'm a guy. It was a prank. You have to let it go. And so Rusty Nail's like, that's not funny. And I want an apology right now.
Apologize.
So Paul Walker's like, yeah, I'll apologize to him because, yeah, I realized how effed up that was. But Fuller's not having it. Fuller's like, we're not apologizing. So Fuller gets on the phone or on the radio, and he makes things 10 times worse. It's actually really bad. I think he calls him like crazy. He called him everything but a child of God on the radio. And so Rusty Nail is like, you know what? That's not funny. But while we're talking, I think you should fix that. And Fuller's like, fix what? Your broken tail light.
You really ought to get that fixed.
Get what fixed?
Your tail light.
Rusty Nail is clearly close by because he could see that the boys have a broken tail light. Fuller's like, look, just drive. Just keep driving until we get to where we got to go, and then we'll be safe. But guess what? They're out of gas. Ultimately, they end up finding a gas station at a nearby exit, and they veer off at the last minute, so Rusty Nail cannot, maneuver his truck to come over there with them. So they're trying to hurry up and get gas before the truck can maneuver its way back around on the exit. So Paul Walker is making the call on the phone, and Fuller is looking around when he sees a big old ice truck coming around the corner. So he's not sure. We're not sure. The audience, we still have not seen what kind of truck Rusty Nail drives. It could be any truck. It could be this ice truck. The ice truck parks at the gas station, and out comes this very sketchy looking guy. And while he looks sketchy, I feel like the kind of sketchy I would be expecting, it doesn't fit this. He just looks like someone's bike riding grandpa. He's not scary to me at all. He gets out of the truck and he's checking his tires with this little bat looking thing. And Fuller is naturally very shook up because I don't know what this man looks like. It could be literally anybody. And he's decided, yeah, That's Rusty Nail. That's a Rusty Nail if I've ever seen one. By the time he alerts his brother, like, hey, Rusty Nail's here, the guy is in the gas station behind Paul Walker at the payphone. He's still on the phone, but he's getting sent to voicemail, and it says leave a voicemail after the tone. And he can't do that because if he does, the man is right behind him. He's going to hear it. He's going to recognize his voice. He's going to hear the call. At this point, the only thing that they have going for themselves is that this man does not know what they look like. Paul Walker decides to just hang up the phone, cuts his losses, and walks out. But before he could go out, the gas station attendant is saying, hey, did you just get that gas at pump whatever? You need to pay. So Paul Walker pulls out his credit card, and back in my day when I was a kid, when you swipe a credit card, you have to get like a slip and sign it. And I think that's kind of how they would check like for fraud and stuff. I don't know what the slip was for. I've seen it with my own eyes, but how old is this movie? Like, I didn't think the slip sign thingy was still a thing in 2001, but I guess it was. Paul Walker eventually goes out of the store and they get in the car and they're trying to gun it out of there because this man is being very creepy and they think this is Rusty Nail. So as they're driving away, they go down a road and we see that the road that they're going down is a dead end. And guess who's behind them? The ice truck. And they're freaking out. Since it's a dead end, they eventually hit a gate and they have to slam on brakes and the truck is right behind them. The guy gets out of the truck and he's walking up to the car window and they're screaming all kinds of stuff like, I got a gun. Don't come any closer. Please don't come any closer. And the guy knocks on the window and it turns out that Paul Walker just left his MasterCard at the gas station counter. You didn't have to hunt me down like that. The way he was driving behind them, you would think. And then like, it's such an aggressive drive. Like I said, this whole movie is like the Fast and the Furious audition for Paul Walker. Like, yeah, they saw that. It was like, that's the man who know how to drive a car. He's the one. He's it. Let's hire him immediately. So they're getting out of the car and they're standing there and they're catching their breath and they're watching the ice truck pull away. But then they hear something in the distance and they're like, do you hear that? Come to find out, it is Rusty Nail and his 18-wheeler and he plows through the ice truck. Ice goes flying everywhere. Paul Walker and his brother get back in the car and they gun it. The gate that stopped them initially, it's not stopping them anymore. They go right through it. Why didn't you do that in the first place? I don't know. So they're going right through the gate and this 18-wheeler is chasing them. They're like in this back farmland. It's definitely like probably like private owned property, just a field, a farmland, right? And they try to cut the wheel and they end up slamming into a tree and the car is no longer functioning. So they're sitting sideways. I'm not going to wrap it. They're sitting sideways and the 18-wheeler is coming at them head on. And so he's like ramming into the side of the car and he's slowly crushing them. But before he kills them, he literally goes, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. It's just a joke. It's just a prank. Lighten up. It's funny, right? I'm just joking.
Well, I was just playing with you, man.
I'm just joking. So it's done, right? You would think it's done, but this movie still has like another hour left at this point. So it's the next day and the boys are at this auto shop and they're getting the car fixed, including the taillight because that's a thing. Forgot to mention that earlier in this movie, Paul Walker did get a ticket because the taillight was out. Should have mentioned that, but I completely forgot. So they're getting the car fixed, they're getting the taillight fixed, and they decide to rip that radio out of take that out of here. That would have been out of here. Okay, that would have been gone. So they take the radio out, they ditch it, and they head on to get Venna at her college. So they're driving and they're deciding, hey, when we get here, let's not mention this. I don't want her to get freaked out. So they both agree that they're not going to tell Venna any of this. They're just going to pick her up and act like nothing happened. They get to the college and there's this weird scene where Fuller is looking at Venna. And it's like, you do know that's your brother's crush, right? And I think I should mention, I didn't mention earlier, but basically Fuller was talking to Paul Walker about the girl and he's saying, y'all have been friends for such a long time and she ain't never gave you no play. She don't even seem like she's interested in you. You've never even slept with her. You don't even know if you have a chance. Like, you're driving to go get her. Like, does she even like you? Like, what are you doing? And Paul Walker didn't take that too well. He kind of had like a little tantrum. It just set up the fact that him and Venna don't have a romantic relationship at all. It's friendship on her end, but for him, he really seems to like her. And once Fuller lays eyes on her, he's like, okay, yeah, I get it. And he even says she fine. She top of the line. Yeah, I see why you would drive this far. She looked good. Well, while they're there picking up Venna, they meet Venna's friend. I don't know her name. She's just some preppy, cute girl in a drop top. Very cute, very Legally Blonde-esque. She's headed home for, break as well. And they say goodbye to her bestie and they get on the road and they get going. I believe along the road trip, they stop in Nebraska. And in Nebraska, they stop for drinks. They're having a good time. They have a bunch of tequila shots and then they go check into another motel. Now, while they're checking into this motel, Fuller makes a move on Venna. They get very close and he gets really close to her mouth like they want to kiss. And it's very awkward because ain't that your brother, girl? Don't your brother like her? So that's kind of snakish on his part. And right before they get close enough to kiss, Paul Walker comes up and he's like, hey, we're going to bed, right? Yeah, I'll see you guys in the morning. Let's go. Brothers go to their room and Venna goes to her room. And like I said, they've had a bunch of tequila shots, so they kind of toe up. Paul Walker passes out and Fuller's just kind of sitting there having a one-sided conversation with his brother about his crush. And he asked him stuff like, y'all are just friends, right? It's not like you like her. It ain't like y'all go together. Basically, he's talking himself up to go to Venna's room. And it's very shisty for a brother to do this. So Fuller ends up in Venna's room when they're having drinks. And things are kind of getting like, where's this going? What are you doing? As a brother, you're being weird. We go back to Paul Walker's room and he's still knocked out. But now the phone's ringing and he's saying, hey, Fuller, can you pick up the phone? He's very sleepy. And you know how you're groggy and you're like, bro, pick up the phone. Like that's what he's doing. But his brother's not in the room. And he discovers that when he wakes up, looks around and he picks up the phone. And guess who's on the line? Rusty Nail. Rusty Nail's like, I thought y'all said there wasn't no real girl. I thought y'all said y'all were playing. And Paul Walker's like, there isn't a real girl. And Rusty Nail's like, oh yeah, so who is your brother in the room with? Very scary, very creepy moment. So Paul Walker jumps up, he runs down to Venna's room, and he's like, guess who just called me on the phone? It was Rusty Nail. We got to get up out of here. He watching us, and he wanted to know why you was in the room with my girl, and that's actually a good question. Venna is scared. She's like, what's going on? They're like, we gotta go. We can answer the questions later. And she's like, no, I paid for this hotel room. And at this point, I'm like, girl, if they say go, fuck that hotel room. Like, how much did you pay? How much could you have really paid for this hotel room? Girl, if you don't get out this hotel room, we saying we need to go now. As they're making their getaway, Fuller is driving. And as he's driving, he sees the road signs and they're spelling out a message. And the message is, look in the trunk. So they pull over and they look in the trunk, and it turns out the radio that they thought they got rid of has been placed back in the trunk. So at this point, there's a lot of questions that need answers. How and when did he put the radio back in the trunk? I guess probably when they were drinking. Then another question that they actually ask is, how did he know that we were brothers? Because remember, back at the hotel, they said, your brother's in the room with a girl. I thought you said there wasn't a girl. And I think when movies put in questions like this, like, how did he know we were brothers? It's because there's no reason for him to know that. And the writers know that it's ridiculous. So they put it in the script to kind of like brush it off. Like, even we don't know how that happened. I hate when they do stuff like that in movies, but it happens often. So they put the radio back into the car and they say, okay, we're just going to listen to what he has to say, but we're not going to talk to him. So as they're driving, Rusty Nail eventually gets back on the radio and he informs them that he has Venna's friend from college, the one in the drop top. He instructs them to drive to the state line, I do believe. And once they get to the state line, he says, wait on my instructions. So they're parked outside of this gas station, diner, combo kind of place. And Rusty Nail gets on the intercom and he says, I want you to walk in butt booty naked and sit down at this diner and order 6 cheeseburgers each. Very strange request, but the boys have to do it because if they don't, Drop Top Bestie is going to die. So they strip down butt naked and they go into the diner and they fulfill Rusty Nail's request. Now, while they're in the diner, Vina has the radio and she's talking to Rusty Nail, and she still really doesn't know everything that happened. And he fills her in, they played a prank on me and it wasn't funny. And now they get to know what it's like to be the butt of the joke. Me personally, I feel like I would have a lot of sympathy because it's not funny to play with people like that, especially people who aren't popular or people who already seem to have had a rough life. If you listen to the movie, when he's talking to Candy Cane, he's getting kind of excited and the things he's explaining is like kind of nerdy, or like you've never act like you've been there. He can't act like he's been there because he's never been there. And he even said that I've never done anything like this before. So it's not funny to poke fun at people who, anyways, I'm going on a tangent. So let's get back on task. So the boys get humiliated in the diner. And while they're in the diner, Rusty Nail is telling Vina what they have to do. So once she gets instructions for what they have to do, she honks the horn and the boys come running out of the diner and they've been humiliated and, kind of justice has been served, right? The next thing you know, they're at like this cornfield. Rusty Nail gets on the intercom and he's like, I need you guys to get out of the car and I need you to walk 100 feet. And once you walk 100 feet, you'll get Blonde Bestie back. And so they're like, we got to do what he says. So they're out of their car and they're walking and they're just like, okay, let's just do what he says. As they're walking on foot down this road, this 18-wheeler comes out of nowhere. Like, how did you not hear it? As close as the 18-wheeler was, they should have known it was there all along. Like, where did it even come from? So as they're walking, an 18-wheeler pulls up and it's literally gunning for them in the middle of the road. And they're like, let's just stay put. Maybe he wants to talk. He doesn't want to talk. The 18-wheeler keeps going and they're about to get ran over and they decide to cut off into this cornfield on foot, and the truck follows them into the cornfield. So now it's a chase on foot and they're outrunning a big rig somehow. Don't ask me how. They get lost because, of course, they get lost in the cornfield. And once they get lost, they discover that Vina is missing. Rusty Nail has kidnapped Vina, and so now the journey continues. Now, Rusty Nail gives them the assignment to find Vina, and the instructions are, meet me at a hotel at this time. Don't be late. If you're even a second late, Vina is going to be dead, okay? So the brothers turn onto this main drag, and they're like, okay, let's get to this motel at the perfect time. But when they turn onto the main drag, they see that there are multiple hotels. So now they have to figure out what hotel room 17 is Vina in. And it's kind of like another humiliation thing, like I got you back, getting that lick back. They have to go knock on every room 17 and it's not the right room. So they have to essentially relive the same prank that they played on Rusty Nail. And eventually they find room 17 and it's empty, but they get a phone call and Rusty Nail's on the phone and he's just talking all kinds of Riddler type stuff. And come to find out, he's in the hotel room next door. So the brother leaves the room and he decides to go out to the back of the motel. And in the window, he can see that Vina is strapped to the chair. And there's a contraption to where if you open the door to the hotel room, it's like rigged up with a shotgun. A rope tied to the trigger. Very Home Alone. Very, very rigged, right? If someone opens that hotel room door, it's going to trigger the gun to go off and it's going to unalive Vina. So Fuller sees this and he has to let Paul Walker know, like, this is what's happening. But before he can get back to his brother, Rusty Nail is approaching him and they're having a showdown in the alleyway. There's a lot of tussling that ensues. Paul Walker almost opens the door. The brother screams, don't open the door. So then it's a lot. It's very convoluted, very crazy. So Paul Walker doesn't open the hotel room door because he can hear his brother screaming, don't open the door. So he decides to go around back to help Fuller fight off Rusty Nail. So they're fighting him off and, while all this tussling is going on, the police are arriving. And the police are approaching the hotel room door where Venna is. And if they open that door, Venna is done for. So Paul Walker has to leave his brother in the alleyway or the area behind the motel and get back to the room so he can move Venna out of the way so she does not get shot by the shotgun. He makes it, but the police obviously are like, hands in the air, you know, everybody stay put. But Paul Walker can't do that because he knows his brother is in grave danger out back. Paul Walker makes a mad dash for the back of the hotel room so he can get to the alleyway to save his brother. And sure enough, there's an 18-wheeler headed straight for his brother, who is so injured he cannot even move out of the way of this truck. So Paul Walker is trying to save his brother, but the police are hot on his trail because you just ran up out of here and we told you not to move. So the police are trying to apprehend Paul Walker, but the two brothers are directing the police to the direction of this truck that's headed straight towards us. The police officers direct all their firepower to this 18-wheeler, big rig, whatever you want to call it. So they end up unaliving the driver. The driver he up out of here, he done. The police officers then check the truck and they see that the driver is no longer with us, but Bestie B is alive in the back of the truck. So that's a win. So this is when the movie comes to a close. The two brothers are alive. They managed to save Venna and they saved Bestie B as well. I don't know why I'm calling this girl Bestie B. It's just some blonde white girl, the best friend, okay? Her name is so not important. In true horror movie fashion, they're sitting in the back of the ambulance and everybody's getting nursed back to health. And they decide to ask the police officers, you know, what's the identity of this man? You know, we just know him by Rusty Nail. We want to know more about the man who's been, you know, hunting us down for the past day and a half.
He's just some trucker named Jones. Looks like he drove for some ice company in Wyoming.
But they say he's just some simple ice truck driver. Like, what do you mean, ice truck driver? Because remember, earlier in the movie, the brothers were, you know, being chased by an ice truck driver, but he ended up being innocent. So they're kind of confused by that. Like, what do you mean he drives an ice truck? And just as they're all looking at each other in confusion, a voice comes over the radio in the ambulance. And it is a very familiar voice. It's Rusty Nail, and he's talking his radio jargon, his truck driver jargon about the weather and whatever. But I think he's basically letting them know, hey, I got away. Y'all did not get me. I'm still out here. I'm alive. And that leaves this movie open for sequels. And I think there are 2 more sequels. I have not seen either one of them, but I can watch them if you guys are interested in more commentary about the movie Joyride. But that is where this movie comes to a close, and that is Joyride 2001. I like movies like this. If I had to rate this movie, I would give it like maybe 3 out of 5 stars. It's a really good movie, but I feel like there's more that could have been done with it. It's kind of interesting. I guess the prank that they did, it was a little over the top. It was a bit much, but was it worth ripping someone's jaw off? Was based on how they painted the character, you could tell he was probably bullied in high school and he's probably had enough, okay? Enough to rip somebody's jaw off. So that's why you don't play with people. People are unhinged. And I think the lesson we could take away from this movie is we don't know what people have gone through. We don't know what's somebody's last straw. Like, you know, what you think might be an innocent joke is somebody's last straw. It's somebody's 13th reason, and they're not taking it out on themselves. They're taking it out on you. Don't play on nobody's phone. I think that is like the #1 rule. Don't play on my phone. I do not like people to play on my phone.
I don't like people playing on my phone. Girl, don't even trip. You bigger than that. No. I don't like people playing on my phone.
And that's essentially what they did. They just they went out of their way to mess with somebody who was not messing with them. And I guess they got what they deserved. Not really. I'm joking. I'm joking. Sometimes pranks can go a little too far. And with this being April Fool's Day today, I hope the pranks that you guys play today are harmless. Anyways, happy April Fool's Day. Make sure the pranks that you play today are harmless. Don't play on nobody's phone, like I said. I want to thank you guys for watching this first movie review. I know it was kind of rocky. This is my first time ever really talking long term on camera, and it's certainly my first time doing a movie review. So make sure you subscribe to this channel to see it grow, to see me get better at talking on camera, to see me do better reviews. Don't forget to also like and comment on this video and share this video if you know anybody else who will enjoy movie content. But I want to thank you guys again for watching this video and sticking with me into the end, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!